Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my VCT EMEA Week 3 power rankings. This week at EMEA was a little bit crazy, a lot of games that were a lot closer than we expected, some slop fests of teams just playing really poorly, specifically on certain maps, I think, within certain games. Like, there were some games where like, oh, there's a few maps that were really good, but one really, really bad one. And then you have some other games with like some decent sized upsets as well as just like stomps that we didn't really expect. But yeah, if you guys enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe. Really helps me out. Also, go check out my Twitter and my Discord. Links to both are in the description. I do weekly player rankings on there for EMEA, Americas, and Pacific. I just posted my EMEA ones as of recording this, and I should have all three up as of posting this on both platforms. So you can go check those out if you're interested in those. I also just talk about VCT on both in general, and just give my like kind of react to what you guys are talking about within those servers. So if you're interested in just talking ball on there as well, you can go check those out. Also, link in the description to my Twitch. I stream both on this channel and there. So if you prefer to watch on Twitch, you can go follow that channel there, as well as like I in my Discord, I have notifications for all of my content, whether it be YouTube or my Twitch. So go check those out if you're interested in that, and let's get right into it. We'll start with this bottom tier of teams that are kind of in the relegation zone, whether one I would say is guaranteed to be relegated and the other one can't be because they're a partner team, but still is bad enough to be in there. And that'll be Apex at number 12. Not really too much to say here. They played a slot fest against who was it? It was against KC. They looked good on Sunset again. That's about it. They don't really have another map of the pool that they're particularly great at. If they can beat like a okay team like Koi on Sunset, and then maybe go into a different map where they don't look as good but get an upset win, I think that's fully possible for them. But I just think Koi is the better team right now between the two, who I have at my number 11 spot. I think these are probably two of the worst teams in VCT overall. Now, I do think Koi is better than Apex, having a relatively close game against Liquid week 1, and then heading into this week against Fnatic. Having a close map on Haven, but for some reason they don't pick Icebox, where they've been really good throughout the whole split, and they decide to pick into Ascent, where they're playing a Waylay comp. I don't get that one at all. But if they don't troll the map veto, maybe that game's a little bit closer against Fnatic, because Haven, which... Oh, sorry, Fnatic picked Ascent, and then they picked Haven, which they came out playing that Yoru ISO with Filu and a tank on the Duelist, which actually wasn't that bad. So they didn't troll as hard as I maybe thought, but also that's one of Fnatic's better maps throughout the course of last split. So that was a little weird to me overall, but two just teams that are not making playoffs and are not going to be very good at all this split. Now onto my next tier of teams that are kind of just okay. I don't really have too much to overall say about them. Now, our first team in this tier, I actually do have a decent amount to say because they have looked good, and that's Gentlemates. They looked pretty solid in their first game against Foot, which they ended up choking on Sunset, or on Lotus on map 3, where they were up 12-6. Then against Heretics, they're up 12-4 on Corrode. They choke that lead 14-12. Then they're up 10-2 on Ascent against Heretics in that next map after Corrode, and they choke that as well. Now, I think that one's more down to Ascent being a little bit defense sided with these like more default comps with the KO Sova, and then I mean even I think this double duelist comp that Heretics is running with the Jet Yoru I think is defense sided as well. So overall, like not great to lose that though as well after being up 10-2. But they didn't lose that map. Sorry, they did end up closing it out in overtime, but losing that lead, not great. Especially after doing that same thing with the 12-6 in the first half of the season, or in that, not in the first half, in the first game. This team looks good up until they have to get like the game closed out. I think all of their players, like all 5 players on this team, have looked pretty decent at different points, especially Vaycash, who was insane. Minis looked really good as well. Individually, I think Kamix looked pretty good as well. Comeback has been very disappointing to me in terms of just like his decision making in the mid rounds, where he'll kind of just he'll send it sometimes and just die for no reason. I think this team has a lot of potential to go up, but I think they've kind of cooked themselves for the rest of the year. They obviously don't have enough points to make it to champs in any way, shape, or form. I mean, after what was their record in stage one? They won one game in stage one, and that was against a Liquid coming off making a roster change and an international event previously. They were barely able to close that one out. I think they choked against Foot as well in this game. Um, on one of these maps, I think it was Fracture. No, okay, they did come back against Foot. Then I don't know, but like they didn't put themselves in a good spot during stage one, and now they're 0-2 heading into a stretch of BBL, Giants, and Vitality, which was what we've seen this split are three pretty good teams overall. And it's just not a great spot to be in for mates. I think they could be a solid team that ends up getting relegated because they just haven't done enough on the year overall. Then after them in OK, in this OK teams tier, we have Carmine Core, who did end up winning this week, but in kind of a slop fest against Apex after looking pretty solid against Fnatic the week before. Nothing like amazing by any means. They were able to beat Fnatic on that Lotus map, but overall just didn't really do too much else. I guess they did play them close in Icebox, but like their Icebox is really good. And then their Lotus is okay at times, and that's about it. Honestly, I don't really like. I don't think their map pool's too great. I don't think they have an amazing read on the meta. They do have some nice individuals in Aves and Sagetsu. People really overrate how good Martina is, but I think Elite has also been bouncing back a little bit and leads to this team being kind of streaky at times as well. I don't think Zadok's been the caller that a lot of people expected him to be on this team. But like, yeah, their Carmine Core is solid. They'll probably make playoffs. They'll probably beat Koi this week. They do have a chance at beating Navi and Liquid in the next 2 weeks. They're like this OK teams tier feels like teams that are underrated but haven't proven anything to move up in the rankings necessarily. Now onto my next tier of solid teams that I think can contend in playoffs, but overall I don't really expect to make any kind of deep run to make champs or anything like that. Um, wait, I gotta pull my power ranking spreadsheet back up because I closed it to watch some of the Americas games. Um, okay, we're good to go. So that'll start with Navi, who did not have a great week this week. I think they were very disappointing against Liquid, getting kind of smacked around both on Corrode, which I think that scoreline shows a closer game than it actually was in terms of 13-7. And then Sunset just wasn't very good at all either. So Alexic kind of struggling in that game as well. I don't think they'll struggle that much against some other teams. Now Fnatic, they probably could. And then Casey, I think that'll be a good match or a good game. And then Koi, I think they should be able to close out. So like they're in a fine spot to make playoffs, but do I really think this team has the ceiling to go on a run and make it to top two, to make it to that grand final spot, to make it to champs? I don't think so. Then I have Foot, who were very disappointing this week. And now they were also disappointing last week, I think, against General Mates, but they were able to come back, win that game at least, and look good in that comeback and maybe give me some hope heading into the next week and not like fully drop them. But now they're coming in at number 7, I believe, and kind of losing a lot of hope, especially when their last 3 games are the teams that they're playing against in terms of Giants, Heretics, and BBL. 3 teams that have been very good this split. And like for this game specifically against Vitality, I'm glad that they at least put Zeus on something other than Raze that he's been good at in the past. Now he was not good in this game again. I think really their only player that was worth a damn in this game was CNED, because Yedije played decently well on map 1 in a 13-2 loss, to be fair. And then he just shit the bed on map 2. Krax was overall kind of mid. CNED was good on both maps, and then Zeus was kind of bad on both maps. So I think overall, like, you're not completely doomer about Foot. Like, I think they'll be better in future weeks and at least look okay and make it to playoffs, be an okay team there. But overall, like, it is not great for their chances at champions, at least of making it. Obviously their chances at champions aren't very good either. Then we have Vitality, who looked a lot better this week. Looked like they actually had a clue of what they were doing. All of their individuals were playing a lot better, especially Kovac. I thought was amazing in this game. I think Unvake had some really nice moments. Kix had some big clutches. Durka and Les were still hitting as well. I think this team has a lot of individual firepower, and if they can actually look good and play good as a team, I think they should be a very good team this stage. Now, I still question their upside of being a new team. This is only their second week playing within EMEA, but they should be able to make playoffs. They have a game in that final week against Gentlemates. Obviously, they play Heretics and BBL in these next 2 weeks, so I fully expect them to lose those games, but I do think they have chances against BBL specifically. So that should be very interesting to follow this team. This is a team that could go up and or up or down throughout the season quite a bit, like a very flip floppy team. So I think they'll be a little bit inconsistent. That's why I have them in the solid teams tier still. But I think they could very easily get up into this contenders tier in these following weeks. Then I have Giants not quite making it into my champs contenders tier yet, because I don't think that they will necessarily make champs. Now, a lot of that is to do with like their previous split and stuff like that. But also like, do I think that they'll consistently be better than BBL throughout the split? No. And obviously I don't think they'll be better than a Liquid or a Heretics or a Fnatic. So it's going to be a little hard for me to bump them up into that champs contenders tier, but man, this team looks solid. Aura had a really good game this week after not being super great last week. I just think the rest of the roster is so solid all the time as well, with Flickless playing really well. Grabinho is awesome. Very good supportive Smokes player. Westside is a solid Sentinel player. I mean, even better than solid. I think he has some really nice moments in there. And then Cloud has taken a little bit of a step back on the individual side, but has been a lot better in terms of the calling. And they were able to beat BBL in this game and look very good while doing it. All right, now it's the next day as of recording this, but moving on to these top 4 teams in the MEA. It'll be the same 4 teams as last week, honestly. I don't really have too much changing here. The one team that I do want to talk about 2 teams here specifically, BBL and Liquid, but we'll start with Fnatic and Heretics because they both won this week. Heretics in a little bit less of dominant fashion than you would expect, but they did end up getting the win across the line, had some great comebacks in there, which you like to see from a team maybe with some issues playing under pressure. They played some maps that they hadn't played before and looked kind of decent on them, especially the Ascent and the Bind, when Ascent has historically not been a great map for them. You like to see that. Obviously, the Corrode, I think, had more to do with mates not being good in the second half of that game, but still, they looked good in that second half regardless. And then Fnatic, they beat Koi. I don't have anything to say about them. They're the best team in EMEA. You would expect them to beat one of the worst teams. But then BBL, we'll start with since they're a bit lower in this list. I consider dropping them, but I think with what we've seen throughout the season of this team consistently being like that 4th place team in EMEA, I think they'll be fine. I still would expect them to make champs. Obviously, separate from the power ranking, more towards the standings, it's not great to start 0-2, but you could argue, at least in terms of hindsight, that these were their 2 toughest games to start. It's the 2 teams that I have highest in these power rankings, being Heretics and Giants. They then play Gentlemates, which they should win that game. They play Vitality, which I think I would favor them in that game, and I would also favor them against Foot in week 5. And they only have to win 2 of those 3 games to make playoffs. So I think regardless of what you think about BBL, like in terms of like their record right now, I think they are a good enough team to do that. Now, I will say, Yampi's attack side calling this split has been really bad. Like just overall as a whole. Ice like you played Heretics on Icebox, you didn't have to play the attack side there. Then you come in against Giants, you play Icebox, and you don't win a single attack round, and you lose 13-7. Lotus, I also thought was kind of not great. They won like 3 true rifle rounds, on that game because they won pistol, the follow up bonus, and then the follow up after the bonus, and then lost 5 rounds in a row. So not great there. And then Corrode, they kind of choked away after being up 9-3 at the half. Now, I think some of that has to do with that map being a complete slop fest and neither team actually being good. Like, genuinely, my ranked teams on that map sometimes have higher quality than what those teams are doing. So, I don't know, man. That game was bad. Specifically the Corrode one. Now, the other two maps were fairly entertaining, like specifically the Lotus that they played with Aura and Levin just popping off together. That was very entertaining and very nice to watch. But overall, like, I'm not super concerned about BBL, but they look like a team that isn't perfect and is not really gonna, like, they're showing cracks that they might not be able to go the distance in their, like, cracks in their gameplay and stuff like that. And then Team Liquid, I think all I really have to say is, like, they are kind of back after one game. Like, they struggled in their opener both times. It literally in both splits, they struggled in their opener. They lost their opener last time against Gentlemates. They struggled but beat Koi in their opener this stage. And then they followed up by absolutely shitting on Navi this stage. And yeah, looking good on the new map Corrode, I thought that was decent. And then Sunset was very good as well. So overall, a very good week for Liquid. And yeah, so these will be my power rankings. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And then we'll move on to my pick'ems. All right, so for the pick'ems this week, we'll address last week. Went 4 for 6, same thing as I did the previous week in EMEA. I will take 4 out of 6 every week. Yeah, I don't know. I thought I was gonna have some kind of follow up there. No, I did not. But moving on to the first game, this is a very, very big game for both teams. Foot, I believe, being 1-1 heading into this game. Giants being 2-0. I just think Giants are the better team so far, and they have a lot more like positive momentum for them. Foot have a lot of negative vibes around this team, in my opinion, and I think just overall, like the vibes around these two teams are so polar opposites that I kind of have to pick Giants in this game, even though I think they're similar caliber teams, and Foot could potentially bounce back a lot more this week and beat Giants. I think this is like a 60-40, but the vibes make me go Giants. Then Mates BBL, picking BBL. Team Liquid Apex, I am picking Team Liquid. Pretty easy there. And then Koi Carmine Core. I am going to pick the upset here for Koi. Is there much reasoning behind it whatsoever? No. Other than the fact that both teams are very good at Icebox, so I think Icebox will be in the pool of this series. And I think Koi could win that and then also upset Carmine Core on another map where Carmine Core is not playing very well. That's pretty much my entire take on that game. I think it's probably a 70-30 game favored in terms of Carmine Core, but I'm going to pick Koi. Then Navi Fnatic, I'm going to pick Fnatic. And then Vitality Heretics, despite Vitality looking pretty good this past week, I'm going to pick Heretics in that game. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below of my pick'ems and my power rankings, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.